Custores, President, Ixnea, Adesta, Veritatem, Profunditatem, La Mihiostenia. This one is going to be collective reading for trauma survivors out there. Anyone who's going through PTSD. And this is very necessary more for social dynamics after having gone through very traumatic experiences. And I pulled out the, what's it called? This deck, the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck. So this is very much going to be about your transmutation process of that PTSD, but I will also get into the social dynamics, like re-socializing after very traumatic experiences, because that can be challenging because people don't understand what you're going through. People might consider you crazy or something just because they don't understand how trauma works and how much of an imprint it leaves within our psychology, within our body, because we cannot process that much at one time, so we have to take it in small doses. So it'll hit us with triggers that happen, right? And this can feel like it comes out of nowhere for everyone else, but it's a very real experience for you because you actually went through something that's just you processing it, and you have no choice. This is what people do not get. You don't have a choice. You have to go through that no matter what, just because you had to go through that experience. So it's like you're constantly being re-traumatized, at least that's what it feels like, right? By the same experience haunting you over and over and over and over and over and again. So if you're someone who hasn't been through trauma, understand this. They're not crazy, not even a little bit. They're not seeing things, they're not anything like that. Their body is going into a natural state of survival mode because of the trauma that they endured and the processing that they still have to do. Anyone who goes through any bit of trauma will experience this to some degree, but certain traumas will really stick with you and can take a lot longer. If you're someone who's dealing with someone with PTSD, you need to be very patient, and you need to understand you're never going to understand their process or where they're coming from. You're never going to. Don't even try. It'll probably just piss them off, honestly. Dealing with people who are that tender and going through so much internal processing of really dense things like fear, anger, sadness, all these different things that feel so dense and heavy. All that person needs is love and support, and to be reminded that they're safe. To be reminded that they're gonna be okay. This is just a passing, fleeting moment. It's the trauma resurfacing. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna pass, and you wanna help them breathe through it. They're not crazy. They experienced something that stuck with them. Don't you dare label them as crazy. Do you understand? Take care of them. It will pass. It will get better in time, but especially closer to the event of the trauma, it's going to be much harder. People go into shock. You can't process everything all at once, so you need to give people time. When people go through trauma, it's going to be a lifelong healing process, but over time they will get their bearings in it and understand that if the more that you are there with them and can help to train them into that, it's gonna be okay, we just need to breathe, this is gonna pass, the more they can learn that regulation, get into the practice of that regulation, and you can kind of help them down regulate so that they can recenter within themselves, and then they can process that bit that they just experienced, right? But we can only take it in pieces and fractals of the original event. So it would tear you to shreds. It's amazing that we can even survive these things to begin with, but so if you're dealing with someone with PTSD, just have patience and just bring them back down to earth and remind them that they're safe. Get them to breathe, Let them know they're safe. That's all you need to do. It's all about the nervous system regulation. That's all it really ever is. But they're not crazy, they're not schizophrenic because they're having an episode where they were triggered and now they're seeing the past resurface. You know, that's a trauma response. That is a trigger. It's not crazy. That is natural to the healing process. So we need to stop labeling people, and also, like, there are certain things that are disorders, sure. But majority of people, let's be real, have no real understanding of psychology. They might have a conceptual understanding through learning about it, reading about it, but unless you've actually gone through an experience and gone through a healing process, you have no real depth of understanding of psychology whatsoever. So for you to think that you do, you don't. Don't you dare label another person like you understand what they're going through, because you don't know anyone else's experiences. You don't. You don't know what it was like for them to go through. You don't know how small of a thing could be very traumatizing to someone who's maybe very sensitive, and maybe that same thing wouldn't be traumatizing to another person. So there's no room to judge. Don't judge ever. We're all different, and we all experience trauma differently. That thing might have been very triggering to this person because they have a trauma from the past that links to, but for another person they don't, so it wasn't effective to them, you know? You never know what people are going through, so just leave it alone. It's none of your goddamn business. If you see someone struggling, help them find some calm. Love is the only answer there. Breath, love, and recentering. So nervous system regulation. Now we're going to get into the side of the people who are experiencing the PTSD themselves and how to alchemize that, because that feels extremely important. And I think that anyone here who's dealing with someone with PTSD, it would also be beneficial to understand the process that they have to go through, that they have no fucking choice to go through. Understand that these people who have been through these things do not have a choice. They don't. So all we can do is be there for them, you know. And if you've gone through PTSD yourself, like myself, and you've healed through a lot of it and you understand how to get through, help the ones who need you, because majority of people are not going to understand how to help them get through that process, and you know damn well how fucking lonely it is, you know. So let's get into what the alchemical process of healing actually looks like, down to the nitty fucking gritty, and what PTSD really is. Okay, that's what this reading is. And I think I might use some tarot, but for the most part, I think I'm gonna use just this alchemical deck. I might use some runes. I haven't used them in a while, but I'm gonna throw some in here because I feel called to do that. Okay. So these are a lot of cards, and it makes sense because PTSD is a fucking lot, right? It's overwhelming as hell. Literally. It is hell. So it's a long process. Bottom deck, we have the void, which is a very important place. This is home. This is where we want to come back to with PTSD. This is where we reach once we transmute the energy. So we take all that density and allow it to move through us, essentially, and it will transmute it, we'll learn from it. You can even put that into like a creative process. It usually helps me to get very like physical in my body, to connect whatever intensity to a physical action that helps to break down the intensity. Especially just jumping around or like moving your body, like it breaks up the energy faster, and then you can get that emotional release a bit faster. So when a trigger hits, chaos ensues within. No one else is going to be experiencing the same chaos that you are, but it's so real to you because it's an imprint of what you've already experienced, and it needs to be kind of broken down and shifted, transmuted. So in that process, chaos ensues. When the trigger hits, you take whatever action to help anchor you in, right? And even if that's just a breath work practice, it's a physical practice of feeling your breath go in and out, that will anchor you. Doing body movement practice, any type of creative work, all wonderful anchors. Whatever helps you. Going on a walk can help with fight or flight response as well. But we gotta break down the dense emotions and to lighten them up, so you can free that energy and release it. When chaos ensues, that's the fear aspect, right? That's the illusion part of it, where it's not in our immediate environment anymore. It used to be, so it was a real experience then, in the past. It's not anymore, so now it's an illusion. It's just a fear being presented because a trigger was hit. And that triggers happen so that it does bring the trauma up, right? When it's brought up or faced with it, that's where it really helps to have a good support system that actually understands what's going on to some degree and knows that they're not fully going to understand it, but they know that they just need to bring them down. You just need to regulate the nervous system, because once you regulate that nervous system, you can help this person anchor. Or if you're just on your own on this journey, I have been a lot of mine. Find different ways, physical means to anchor yourself in, and that constant connectivity to things like that will help you break down those energies. And once the density of that is shifted and transmuted and lightens, then you get this release of emotion. It's a very emotional experience, and then you feel like you'll feel it as it releases. You feel lighter and lighter and lighter, and then you get that inner void experience, where this is something that feels amazing to trauma survivors, when you get inner stillness, because it can be a rarity. It can be very hard to achieve that, but after emotional release, you actually get that, because your nervous system comes back down, it regulates, you're recentered into your heart space, you finally get that inner stillness, void space, like you see the bottom of the deck, and that is where you want to be. That's your power place. That's home. Don't be afraid of that space. Some people can be afraid of it because it's dark and it's infinite and it is alive, and you don't really know what you're going to discover there. But just sit with stillness. If you can practice sitting with stillness, or help whoever you're experiencing with PTSD to practice that stillness, the only way to get there would be to actually downregulate the nervous system enough to where you can get that emotional release. And downregulating the nervous system will help to release the fear aspect, which is the illusion, right? It's no longer happening here, but it did happen, so now we're just processing. So get out of the fear, become downregulating will help you come back into the heart. Being in the heart, help you release the emotion, wash it away. And we learn from it, and we come into stillness, and we can rest. We can rest into ourselves, into our inner home. So this is something that, again, can be practiced very much by yourself with an anchoring practice, but also with a healthy support system. We also got that peacock scale. It is coming out in reverse, and it was coming right next to this against nature in reverse. So through trauma, because we're speaking so much of PTSD, it really does turn your whole world upside down. It's always going to be a very humbling experience, right? Any sort of trauma that you go through will be extremely humbling. So with that peacock still, like you're not showing off anything. You're not trying to be anything that you're not. You're literally just trying to get through your every fucking day, carrying all this stuff that no one else can see. So, and it feels unnatural. It might feel unnatural for people to witness you too, but they just don't understand. It completely like flips your world upside down to the point where it's like you have to relearn how to be yourself again. You have to relearn how to be human again in the world. You have to relearn how to be social, like, to make any sort of connection with anything. It's really challenging, and so why a lot of people struggle so much and can really drown in their emotions of these really tough experiences. And that's why, I mean, there's so many suicides too. There's so much trauma that is unresolved that people don't know how to process because this world doesn't really teach you that. And it's really unfortunate that we don't have better resources to help people move through these things, and all the poor people who lose their lives because of it. But there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, and you can find freedom even through these very traumatic experiences, by going through this healing process. Over time, you get stronger and stronger, and you're much more able to hold space for any kind of experience, no matter how terrifying, how sad, how infuriating, whatever. You spread that golden light within yourself by healing the heart, by releasing the pain of it. And that's the hardest part, to actually feel the pain of it, right? I mean, you could argue that the fear is the hardest part, really, but I mean, we stay in fear because we're afraid to feel the pain. It hurts, but it's such an important part of the transmutation process, this alchemical process that helps to shift your inner states and helps you become really who you were meant to be, and in a new version of yourself. Maybe not someone who you thought you would be, but it is someone who in time you will be very proud of. Like I said, this is a very humbling experience, so I see it. Anyone who goes through things like this, it's gonna put you in a place where you either get really stuck in that if you don't have the proper support, or you're gonna get through it and you're gonna be so deeply authentic, because like you don't care about all the other things, like the little things that other people care about. You don't have time to. You don't have the room to. You just don't. Other people might take offense to that, but it's not your fucking problem. It can't be your problem. You have too many other goddamn problems. So, you just can't. So you become the most authentic version of yourself this way, and it sucks to have to strip away all of your identity and everything that you were in this way, to lose every bit of yourself and have to rebuild. But at the same time, it also stripped you bare of anything that wasn't actually you, and that is something that you learn to appreciate along the way, but it does take time to get there. It takes a hell of a lot of time, and just getting like, it's a cleansing and purification process. It's just releasing, and you're constantly releasing, and eventually you'll get to a place where, yeah, you're still releasing, but it's more few and far between, and you're still learning. You're still learning from those experiences every time, but it becomes more of a refinement process, and it's not something that takes over your world in the same way, but it does still affect you. But you can then use that more as material to converse with or connect with the world around you, and share what you've learned from what you've had to endure with with other people who are going through similar experiences who also need that help. And we need a lot of people who understand that process. We need as many people right now as possible because there's so many people with PTSD in this world right now, and we need healers more than anything. I kind of get this with this moon energy. So sugar coming out kind of sideways. We need to bring more sweetness into it. Like I said, no judging people with PTSD just because you can't see the invisible war that they're fighting. It doesn't mean that they're crazy because they're experiencing something that you're not. It just means that they've had trauma in the past that is being triggered and brought up right now. They're being forced to experience whether you believe it or not. And that's just about releasing. So we can bring some sweetness, bring some tender love and care in, help recenter these people, downregulate their nervous systems, right? Help them chill out a bit. And sometimes you need to just take that time to rest. Trauma survivors can have a very hard time making it in everyday reality, stabilizing, just because of just because they have to, like, they are literally, they don't have a choice. This stuff will come up whether you want it to or not, and they have to go through that. And it fucks up with your head in a lot of ways. But when you have a really solid support system around you, it is so helpful. It is so helpful because it can help bring that person down, or it can help ground you much faster, to get that clarity of mind to understand the situation better, and more over time, the trauma will affect you less and less, and it'll then be more of something like a learning experience that you can share. I'm gonna pull some runes and see what we get. And it's been a while, so I'm gonna read the descriptions. I don't remember all of the meanings. I'm gonna leave these kind of where they fell to. I put this 3 stars on the Sun Splendor. This is about personal will, resistance, luck for protection. It represents Thor, god of thunder, defense, breaking down of boundaries, and force. And that's exactly what we were talking about, is to get to that Sun Splendor, to grow that golden light within your heart. You do have to go through the process of that trigger, fear, right? That chaos ensues internally. Down-regulate nervous system, come into the heart, release the emotion, enter void space. Then we grow the light. So that's the process of it. So that's interesting. But it takes your free will to get there. If you're going through this, you do have to choose to surrender to the process rather than fighting against it. You don't want to struggle against your fear, because then you're just going to make it worse. People can get really stuck and lost there, and it's really unfortunate. I do hope that anyone who is going through PTSD has a very solid support system. If you don't have one, please get one, because that is going to be the fastest way to heal. And if you don't have that, make sure you have a very, very strong physical practice to keep you grounded, and that will help you process all this stuff. But using your willpower to make the choice to heal is what's going to get you to that Sun Splendor. Alright, I got manas, just humanity, mankind, awareness of the self, knowledge, collective consciousness of humanity. That landed right on sublimation. Hey, hey. Okay. And so this, I mean, kind of goes along with what I was just saying to conscious. Yeah. So it's important to do this healing work for everyone to coexist freely, but also, I mean, just so that you can feel like a normal human being again, really. But your healing will affect healing all over the world, greater consciousness. It just will. It does, you know? We all are connected and we all play a role in the greater whole. And you'll see this the more you go through your healing process. Apologies. Okay, you'll see this the more you go through your healing process. But the sublimation, I was really getting of the process of transmutation, right? This alchemization of energy where it's really dense and heavy, the fear, grief, whatever, breaking up, and then you get the release and you get lighter and lighter in spirit, lighter and lighter. And this helps the collective ascend in consciousness. So basically we're all evolving psychologically at this time by learning all these things. And the deeper that each of us can go into ourselves and learn from our own perspective and share that outwardly, the more we know, the more we understand together. And so, like I talked about, like going through any trauma is going to be very humbling. And that's a good thing because we all want to be humbled. We all want to be humble. Humility is important in this life. Confidence is also important, but you want to have that balance. Humility is extremely important, and understanding that we are all just a piece of the greater whole. But your individuality and your humanity should be your priority. And it's your responsibility, your duty to yourself and to the rest of the collective to do the healing work. Or if you know someone going through this process, to help support them through that healing work, because the more you can support them through it, the better your life will be, the better their life will be, the better everyone's life will be around you. And that's just how it is. And we've got Othala, which is about property, and that's against nature, inherited property positions, aid in physical and spiritual journeys, ancestral homeland. And it is in the reverse, both. So, yeah, this one just speaks of great loss, like all the, I'm kind of jumping around, but this one's all just about all the loss of that you have to go through as a trauma survivor. And this is what a lot of people will never understand, how much you've had to sacrifice, how much you've lost of yourself, whether it's actual property or inheritance of some kind, or it's just pieces of yourself, your old life, whatever it is, people in your life that meant to you, whatever it is, feels like everything that was natural to you is now not, and you don't know how to get it back. And nothing is ever going to be the same ever again, but you can get back to yourself, but you're going to get yourself back in a way that you are rearranged. You are no longer the same person, and you never will be. That's the harsh truth, a harsh reality of trauma that a lot of people who haven't been through trauma will never understand. And then I've got Jera on Luna, just harvest cycle of 1 year, reward, gain, fruition, fruitful season, plenty, cycles of nature, peace and happiness. And the moon's all about emotional energy, really, and hidden emotions and things like that. There is a sweetness to it. There is definitely a gift in that. And again, it's once you come out of the fear aspect and come into the heart to get that emotional release, that's where you'll receive that. That's where you'll feel love for yourself again. That's where you're reminded that you're just human, and it's okay that you have to go through that, and it's not your fault. You've been through something really hard, and no one should ever have to go through that, but you did, and now you're still having to go through it. So healing itself is a reward, and you feel that in the relief. The sweetness is in the relief after, and in the lesson afterwards, and in the humility that you embody from going through these things. And not only that, but that's what I call the gold, that inner gold. It's in the lessons. It's what you take and you can now use in your life, implement it into your life in a way that is beneficial to you and others. That's a fucking power move right there, right? It takes a lot of time. But the harvest is worth it, right? It's worth it. It's always worth it. I got Hagalaz, which is hailstone, disruption, wild power, change, destructive weather, storms, wrath of nature, uncontrolled forces. And this was in Copper River. So it is like I said, this healing process is all about purification, transforming the darker, denser emotions into something that elevates you, something that lightens you up. And that really does take time, and it feels like everything's working against you. It can feel like people are attacking you, or people are not there for you, because they don't understand what you're going through. It feels like a constant fucking storm, and it's like you're constantly between a rock and a hard place, right? No matter what you do, you are forced to face this every day of your life for the rest of your life. You just have to learn how to adjust and adapt to it, and I mean, over time, yeah, you process it and release it, but it doesn't mean it leaves you. Those scars will be with you forever, So, especially in the beginning, nearer to the trauma, you will be facing a lot more storms, and it can be a very scary process, but stick with it, because as stormy as it feels, it doesn't mean you're going backwards or getting worse. You are still getting better. It just takes time to release. So settle into your body and into your heart as often as you can, especially if you've gone through very traumatic things. A strong physical practice, creative practice also is very beneficial. And even like every trigger that you hit is a part of your process. Don't run from it. And don't get upset with people because they trigger you. That's an opportunity to heal. So take it as a gift, even though it doesn't feel like it. Take it as a gift, because when you get that release, that's when you'll see it as a gift. And that is a promise. There's one more rune that fell out way over here, and this is the last one. And I'm closing this out because it's already pretty long. This one didn't fall on any cards. It's kind of just to its own, so that's why I saved it for last. And it is, it's Perthrow, vessel, cup, change, hidden information, truths, secrets. Okay, that's beautiful. So what I get from that, everything that you're going through is not going to be seen by others, which is why so many people are going to misunderstand you. Hopefully this people more and more release judgments and start understanding this stuff better. But for those who don't, they're not going to understand what you're going through. They might think you're crazy, but you're not. You're just processing your trauma. All that stuff is hidden, right? You have to go through that completely alone, and you have no choice. Even if you have support, it's still your stuff, and no one else is going to understand that. No one else has to understand that. But what else is hidden that they're never going to see is what you get to gain from going through the healing of that, because the change of it, right? Going through that change, that transition, getting the hidden information, all that gold, that inner gold, that from that processing, which other people are not receiving, because they haven't gone through your experience, so only you're getting that very specific wisdom. Is so specific and unique to you. You're getting hidden truths and secrets, and that comes from something beyond, right? That comes from something beyond. And people who have gone through really intense experiences have a much higher potential of reaching those states, those very high spiritual states, naturally, once you go through the healing process. I'm not saying you can't not having gone through healing yet, but it's going to be a lot more confusing and you're not going to be able to make sense of it. Does that make sense? You need to really ground yourself first, and any spiritual things, any spiritual gifts that you possess or find along the way as you heal, just trust me, it's better to go in slow and steady and to make sure that you're staying grounded the entire way. That way you don't get lost in the sauce of it and end up like feeling delusional in any way. Stay very grounded in that way. Stay very practical with your healing process, and you will see you'll just start seeing these gifts develop where you notice things and people cannot see. And again, that might be something they think you're crazy for, or it might intimidate them because they feel seen in ways that scare them, but that's something you simply cannot help. You were able to attain these gifts through the hardships that you endured. So take that and use that, because that is what makes you so unique and so beautiful. So your trauma, while it is an absolute atrocity and no one should ever have to go through these things, we do still go through them as a part of life in this polarizing world that we live in. So take it as a gift or take it as a curse. That's up to you. But if you take it as a gift, I promise you it will become one. It will become one. Thank you so much, Eek. I appreciate you. I just shaved it like maybe a month ago. I had hair down to my bootay, but I feel more free now. It was really good. Thanks for being here, you guys. This one's really long. Some of you just caught it at the end, but I'll have it posted up really soon if you want to watch the full thing. It's if you are dealing with anyone with PTSD or you yourself have PTSD, it would be very beneficial to watch. It's understanding the process of it and how to work with these types of energies. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, I personally have worked through a lot of trauma myself, so you can email me. I'll leave all my links and stuff in the description below. If it's not in this, if this video isn't uploaded soon enough, I have my email and other videos as well. I'll catch you guys in a little bit later. Un amore di Nico, si dico perché l'ho fatto